For months, Dira carried chairs, served food, folded napkins, and cleaned after the bride's family. She wasn't a paid planner. She was family, or so they claimed. But on the wedding day, just as the bride walked down the aisle, the groom turned, walked towards Dira and whispered, "You're in the wrong seat. Come with me." The next few seconds changed every life in that hall. After Dira's mother died, she moved in with her extended family. She was a quiet girl with a soft heart, always willing to help without expecting anything in return. Every morning she woke up early to sweep, wash, cook, and clean. No one asked if she was tired. No one offered to help. To them, she was just there, like a shadow. When her cousin Yamoja got engaged, things became worse. All the hard wedding work was dumped on Dira. She arranged chairs, folded napkins, decorated the hall, and even served food at every gathering. While others laughed, dressed up, and took selfies, Dira worked silently in the background. If she made a mistake, they shouted at her. If she did everything perfectly, no one even said thank you. "She's family," they always said, but they treated her like a maid. They gave her old clothes to wear and never included her in fun plans. Even when she tried to join conversations, they looked at her like she didn't belong. Still, Dira never complained. She believed that helping her family was the right thing, but deep inside, it hurt. How they ignored her kindness, how they only saw her when they needed work done. No one noticed her tears when she washed dishes alone at night. No one heard her silent prayers asking for love, for respect, for someone to just see her. They all thought Dira was just the poor cousin who should be thankful to have a roof over her head. But they had no idea that everything was about to change. They didn't know that the wedding they were planning so proudly was about to flip the story, and Dira, the quiet helper, was about to shock them all. Madhu was the groom-to-be. He came from a respected family and was known for being calm and thoughtful. Every time he visited Yamoja's house for wedding plans, he saw the same girl moving quietly in the background, Dira. She never said much, never demanded attention, but Madhu noticed her. Not just because she was always working, but because of the way she worked. She was smart, she was graceful. When things went wrong, it was Dira who fixed them, arranging decorations, calming people down, finding lost items, helping elders sit comfortably. She didn't wait for praise. She just did what needed to be done, with a soft smile and calm spirit. Madhu started paying attention. He saw how Yamoja and her sisters took credit for Dira's ideas. He saw how her aunt shouted at her in front of guests. He noticed how Dira's clothes were always plain, her shoes worn out, yet she never looked bitter. Instead, she carried herself with quiet strength. One day, when the food delivery was delayed, everyone panicked. It was Dira who found a quick solution, prepared snacks from the little things in the kitchen, and saved the day. But once again, others took the credit. After that day, Madhu began asking questions. "Who is she?" he asked his bride-to-be. "Oh, just a cousin," Yamoja said with a wave of her hand. "She's lucky we let her stay here." Madhu didn't like the way they spoke about her. He asked again another day, and Yamoja's mother replied, "She's like a helper. She should be grateful." But Madhu didn't agree. He saw something rare in Dira, something pure and powerful. Every time he saw her, he felt a pull in his heart. She was different. And slowly, Madhu realized something shocking. He wasn't excited about marrying Yamoja. His eyes and heart were drawn to the one person everyone else ignored, Dira. As the wedding day came closer, everyone in the house was talking about clothes, makeup, hairstyles, and photo sessions. The bride, Yamoja, had already bought 3 different outfits for her big day. Her sisters were showing off their shoes and jewelry, but Dira had nothing. She had been working non-stop, cleaning, serving guests, running errands, but no one thought to ask if she had a dress to wear for the wedding. One afternoon, as she passed by the living room, she heard laughter. Yamoja and her friends were mocking her. "I hope she doesn't come looking like a village girl and spoil our pictures," one said. "She better stay in the kitchen," another laughed. Dira heard it all, but didn't say a word. Later that evening, Dira quietly asked her aunt if she could borrow something decent to wear. Her aunt looked her up and down and said, "You? What will you be doing at the wedding? Just stay at the back and help with food." Dira nodded and walked away, but inside, she felt like crying. She went to her small corner and looked at the only dress she owned, faded and old. It didn't fit well anymore, and the color had washed out. She folded it back and sighed. Maybe they were right. Maybe she shouldn't even try to dress up. The next morning, Yamoja stopped her by the hallway. "Let me be very clear," she said in a sharp voice. "Don't come looking for attention. This is my day. I don't want anyone pitying you and ruining the aesthetic. Stay in the background, okay?" Dira nodded again, but her heart broke a little more. She had never wanted to take anyone's spotlight. She just wanted to be part of the family, even in a small way. As the others went for fittings and makeup trials, Dira stayed back to clean up the mess they left behind. She polished shoes she would never wear. She steamed dresses she would never touch. She made sure the hall was perfect for a wedding she felt uninvited to. That night, she sat alone, watching the moon through the window, wondering why being kind wasn't enough to be seen, why simple always meant less. In her mind, she decided she wouldn't try to fit in. She would just stay behind the scenes and help. That's all they allowed her to be. 2 days before the wedding, while everyone in the house was busy shouting over decorations and final plans, Dira was in the backyard washing piles of dishes. Her hands were tired, her back ached, and her heart felt heavy. Suddenly, a delivery man walked in through the gate and asked, "Is there someone named Dira here?" Everyone looked confused. Dira slowly raised her hand, wiping soap from her fingers. The man handed her a neat box wrapped in soft gold paper. No one knew what was inside. Her aunt frowned. Yamoja rolled her eyes and said, "Probably another donation." Dira quietly carried the box to her small room and placed it on her bed. She sat there for a few minutes, just staring at it. When she finally opened it, her breath caught. Inside was the most beautiful traditional dress she had ever seen, deep blue with golden embroidery that shimmered like stars. The fabric felt smooth like silk. She touched it carefully, like it might disappear. On top of the dress was a small folded note. Her hands trembled as she opened it. The note read, "Please wear this. I want you to be seen. Madhu." Dira's eyes filled with tears. She read it again and again. "I want you to be seen." No one had ever said that to her before. For a moment she held the dress to her chest and smiled, but then doubt crept in. Why would Madhu send her something so beautiful? Was it pity? Was he just being nice? Maybe he saw how poor she looked and wanted her to blend in. She shook her head gently and folded the dress back into the box. That night, she hid the box under her bed. She didn't tell anyone. She didn't even try it on. In her heart, she felt grateful, but she also felt scared. What if she wore it and everyone laughed? What if Yamoja accused her of trying to steal attention? What if it caused more trouble? So she told herself it was just a kind gesture, nothing more. Madhu was a good man, and maybe he just didn't want her to feel left out. That was it. But deep inside, her heart held on to his words. "I want you to be seen." She didn't know it yet, but those words were about to change her whole life. The wedding day finally came. The hall was shining with decorations. Golden fabrics, fresh flowers, and soft lights made everything look like a fairy tale. Guests dressed in their finest clothes filled the room. Laughter and music echoed all around. Everyone looked happy, taking pictures and chatting. But in one corner, near the food tables, stood Dira. She wore a simple dress, her hair tied back. Her hands were busy arranging the drinks and fixing napkins. No one noticed her. No one even said hello. She watched from afar as Yamoja walked around, showing off her gown and smiling for cameras. The bride looked beautiful, but her heart was proud and cold. Dira kept her head down, working silently. She had helped with everything, cooking, cleaning, decorating. But today, she was just another shadow in the background. Suddenly, as the music started and people were asked to take their seats, Dira moved slightly to make space near the food area. At that moment, the bride's brother, Follerin, walked by and snapped, "Can't you move? You're standing in the way. Always looking for attention." His voice was loud, and several guests turned to look. Dira's cheeks burned. She quickly stepped back, feeling embarrassed. She didn't say a word. She couldn't. Her heart sank. That moment broke her. All the hard work, all the late nights, none of it mattered. Not even on this day. She looked around and saw people laughing, hugging, celebrating. No one saw her pain. No one cared. Dira stepped outside the hall quietly. The sun was still bright. She sat on a low bench behind the building, her eyes full of tears. Maybe I shouldn't have come, she thought. Maybe I should have stayed at home. She felt small, like a mistake standing in a place where she didn't belong. She took a deep breath and wiped her tears quickly before anyone could see. Her plan was simple now. Stay outside until the ceremony ended, then go home. She didn't want to ruin anything. She just wanted to disappear. But what Dira didn't know was that inside the hall, something unexpected was about to happen. Something that would pull her from the shadows and place her right where she truly belonged. The music started playing. Everyone stood up and turned to watch the bride walk down the aisle. Cameras were flashing, people were clapping softly, and Yemoja smiled proudly, walking slowly like a queen. Her dress sparkled, her head was held high, and all eyes were on her. It was the moment she had been waiting for. But just as she reached the middle of the hall, something unexpected happened. Madu, the groom, who had been standing at the front with a calm smile, suddenly stopped smiling. His eyes were not on Yemoja. He was looking past her toward the side of the hall. Then, without saying a word, he stepped down from the stage and began walking. Everyone turned to look. Where was he going? What was he doing? He walked straight to the back of the hall, to the corner near the exit door, where Dira had quietly returned to stand and watch from far. Her head was down, and she was holding her hands together, just wanting to see the ceremony from a distance. But then, she looked up and saw Madu walking toward her. Her heart jumped. She blinked, confused. When he reached her, he looked her in the eyes and said softly but clearly, "You're sitting in the wrong place." Dira didn't understand. "Me?" she whispered. Madu nodded, took her hand gently, and said again, "Come with me." His voice was calm but firm. Everyone in the hall froze. Some mouths dropped open. The music stopped. The bride turned around, shocked. Guests looked at one another. Murmurs filled the air. What was happening? Madu walked slowly with Dira, hand in hand, through the center of the hall. Guests moved aside, still staring. Cameras turned. Some people gasped. A few even tried to stop them, but Madu ignored them all. He led Dira all the way to the front of the hall, right to the stage where he had been standing. Then he helped her up the steps and stood beside her. The hall was silent, not even a whisper. Dira stood there in the dress he had given her, shaking slightly, unsure of what to do or say. But Madu looked at her and smiled. His voice broke the silence. "She is the one," he said loudly, "the one I want beside me, not just today, but for life." The crowd was stunned. Whispers turned into shouts. Some clapped, others cried. But one thing was clear. This wedding had just changed forever. Everyone in the hall was still in shock. No one moved. No one spoke. All eyes were on Madu and Dira, standing together on the stage. The bride, Yemoja, was frozen in the middle of the aisle, staring at them with wide eyes. Her smile had disappeared completely. Then Madu picked up the microphone, took a deep breath, and said something that no one expected. "I know many of you are confused," he began. His voice was steady but serious. "But I can't stay silent. I have to speak the truth today, even if it makes people angry. I never wanted this wedding." The hall gasped. Someone dropped a drink. The murmurs began again. "I respect Yemoja," Madu continued, turning slightly to glance at her. "But I don't love her. I never did. This wedding was not my choice. It was something I was pushed into. Family pressure, expectation. They tried to make me believe it was the right thing, but my heart was never in it." Yemoja's mouth fell open. Her face turned pale. Madu looked at Dira now, his voice softer. While everyone ignored her, I noticed her. When others gave orders, she quietly worked. When people mocked her, she still smiled. She has a heart of gold. She never asked for anything, but she gave everything. The audience erupted. Some clapped in support. Others looked shocked. A few of Yemoja's relatives stood up, shouting in anger, but no one stopped Madu. He kept going. "I tried to speak up before, but no one listened. Today, I will not lie at the altar. I cannot marry someone I don't love. The one I want, the one I respect, the one I love." Dira Yemoja's mother stood up, furious. "This is madness. How dare you embarrass our daughter like this?" But it was too late. The truth had already exploded like fireworks across the hall. People started recording, whispering, reacting in every corner. The bride's family looked humiliated. Their proud faces turned sour. All their plans, their show, their pride, ruined in seconds. Guests who had praised them earlier now looked away. Dira, still holding Madu's hand, was overwhelmed. She never expected this. But in that moment, she realized something powerful. Sometimes truth breaks hearts, but it also sets people free. The hall turned into complete chaos. Some people stood and clapped loudly, cheering for Madu and shouting things like, "Finally, someone spoke the truth!" Others shook their heads in disbelief, whispering with disgust. "How could he embarrass the bride like this?" a woman hissed. Yamoja's father looked like he was going to explode with anger, while her mother covered her face in shame. The once perfect wedding had turned into a storm of whispers, arguments, and strong emotions. Meanwhile, Dira's hands were shaking, her heart was racing. She looked at Madu with wide eyes, still confused about everything happening. People who never even spoke to her before were now staring, pointing, talking about her like she was suddenly important. She didn't know what to do. The attention scared her. She tried to pull her hand away from Madu, wanting to run outside and disappear. But Madu held her hand firmly. He looked straight into her eyes and said in a calm but strong voice, "Don't go. You've always belonged here. You just didn't know it." Those words hit Dira deeply. No one had ever said that to her. Her whole life, she had been treated like she was invisible, like she didn't matter. And now, here was someone standing in front of everyone, fighting for her, choosing her. Tears filled her eyes, but they weren't from sadness. They were from the weight of being seen, truly seen, for the first time. In one corner of the room, Dira's aunt whispered angrily, "He's making a mistake. She's just a house girl." But a young guest near her replied, "No, he's making the right choice. Can't you see it?" The crowd was clearly divided. Some guests walked out in protest. Others stayed, curious to see what would happen next. Some even took out their phones, recording everything to post online. But in the middle of it all, Dira and Madu stood still, together. One half of the room judged, the other half celebrated. But for the first time in her life, Dira didn't feel like she had to hide. Madu's words kept repeating in her heart, "You've always belonged here." The hall was still buzzing with shock, but Madu didn't care about the noise anymore. He held Dira's hand gently and looked around. "If anyone wants to leave, you can," he said calmly, "but we're going to do this right." Some people stood to leave, shaking their heads. Others stayed, their eyes wide, waiting to see what would happen. Madu called for a different priest, one who knew him well and respected his decision. The decorations were still there, the flowers still fresh, but the feeling had changed. This wasn't about a big show anymore. It wasn't about the perfect cake, the matching dresses, or rich guests. This was about something real. Madu stood beside Dira, his eyes soft and full of emotion. Dira, dressed in the gown he gave her, looked both nervous and glowing, like someone finally seen after being in the dark too long. As the new priest arrived, a few true friends and kind guests gathered closer. There were no loud drums or fake smiles, just quiet music and the sound of hearts beating fast. The priest spoke simple words, and when it was time for vows, Madu held Dira's hands and said, "I see you, I choose you, and I will honor you forever." Dira's lips trembled as she replied, "You gave me my voice when I had none. I choose you too." There were no fireworks, but there were tears. Even some of the toughest guests wiped their eyes. It wasn't grand, but it was pure. It wasn't loud, but it was powerful. And in that moment, everyone who stayed knew they were witnessing something special. A love not built on pressure or family plans, but on honesty and heart. Madu and Dira walked together, not on a red carpet, but down the center of the hall, side by side. That walk broke tradition. That walk rewrote the story. And it was the most beautiful thing anyone had seen that day. Months passed, and everything changed for Dira. The girl who once carried chairs and cleaned floors was now the most talked about event designer in town. People called her to plan their weddings, birthdays, and big celebrations. Her work was fresh, full of beauty and care. Just like her, everyone wanted her touch, and her calendar filled up fast. Even the same family that had treated her like a servant started calling. They begged her to help with their parties, to make their events perfect. But Dira didn't rush to say yes. She remembered all the times they ignored her, made her feel small, and treated her like she didn't matter. Now, with Madu standing proudly by her side, she knew her value. Dira smiled softly when she politely refused some requests. She had learned to choose where she belongs, with people who see her worth and respect her heart. No more doing things for those who never cared. Her new life was about love, respect, and freedom. Madu and Dira built a strong life together. They laughed, worked, and dreamed side by side. Her past didn't define her, it made her stronger. And every time she walked into a room, she wasn't just a helper or a maid. She was a queen who chose her throne, her people, and her happiness. And that made all the difference. If you believe everyone deserves to be treated like royalty, share this story and remind someone today. Never let anyone dim your light. Your time to shine is coming.